Oh, okay. Kids really like that, so.
Good.
I like to get the kids first.
Good.
So,
Alicia, I forget your shirt.
Forgot it.
that's.
What's great work to practice?
For kids, just like my mom said, don't
I'm here on time though.
Yeah, sure.
the biggest part is crazy. Yeah, not that we don't do crazy. Oh, I was like, what is it?
No.
You can change names tags.
Well,
I tried. No, I told you that's the wrong one. You tried to grab policies.
so I grabbed mine. At least what you need me
No.
tonight.
How are you? I'm good. How are you?
Don't make me have Mike come up.
Take your seat.
Stop it.
Huh? Did
All right,
take
I call
your
this
seat?
meeting to order. Roll call.
Christian,
Yes.
Jesse,
Here.
Michaels, here, Brown, Souter,
Here.
Whittington, Halliday.
Here.
All right, pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Looking for a motion to approve the agenda. I'll make that motion.
Support.
Motion by Nichols, supported by Jeske. All in favor with a raised right hand, say aye. 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 Motion carries 5-0. The consent agenda, looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Motion by Jeske, supported by Souter. All those in favor with a raised right hand, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Student and staff recognition.
All right, thank you very much. So tonight, I'd like to first recognize Dawn Fouch. Dawn is one of our custodians, and she really did some outstanding work a few weeks back in the community ed building. For those of you that have toured the building and seen the kitchen, they have a little kitchen, a little cafeteria back there, and it had probably been some time since it had a real thorough deep clean. I mean, it gets cleaned daily, but she really spent hours in there, really top to bottom, floor, counters, under counters, cabinets, all the equipment, and just really knocked it out. Did a beautiful job. It's spick and span clean and a nice bright place for the kids to eat. And we really do appreciate her efforts because it was kind of her special project. And I know Heidi and everyone out there really appreciated it. Transportation Day was Wednesday, February 23rd. This would have been more timely, but we missed the board meeting, so that's why some of these go back a little bit. Unfortunately, though, that was a snow day, so I was unable to recognize our drivers and mechanics and Bob, unless the snow day was recognition enough, not sure. But that was the day for us to recognize them for their hard work, and really thank them for all they do. Our drivers are Kurt Gunther, Tim Muckenthaler, Tara Tartan, Ruby Gunther, Jonna Ansel, Kristen Cook, Stanley Curtis, Carol Cowell, Kay Barrett, Becky Pratt, Ann Townsend, Kathy Hamill, Karen Wyrick, Jerry Gass, plus aide Margaret Gass, and our two mechanics, Rich Brown, Dustin Stein, last but not least, Transportation Director Bob Bryant. I took pizzas and pop over to the drivers that following week for a nice meal before their afternoon run, and we had an opportunity to visit, and they're a great group, so big thank you to them for all their hard work every day. And finally, I would like to recognize Trish Winkler for her hard work in spearheading the Career Expo. What began as a real small kind of individual in-class experience just for her students in her room went so well that the concept started to grow, and Chauncey started brainstorming, and Trish started brainstorming, and Jeff started brainstorming, and pretty soon we had the whole school involved, and it was a fantastic event. We had businesses from all over, not only Houghton Lake, but even further out, and it went so well, we're already thinking about how to expand it for the next year. So just thanks to everybody involved, and especially Trish for kicking it off. So that takes care of my recognitions.
Well, thank you. All right, public comment? Okay, this real quick first, before you do that, if you don't mind. Speakers are asked to express themselves in a civil manner with due respect for the dignity and privacy of others who may be affected by your comments. While it is not our intent to stifle public comment, speakers should be aware that if your statements violate the rights of others under the law of defamation or invasion of privacy, you may be held legally responsible. If you are unsure of the legal ramifications of what you are about to say, we urge you to consult first with your legal advisor. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Delegations of more than 5 persons wishing to speak on the same topic shall appoint 1 person to present their views to the board.
My name is Becky Powell. I'm here with my husband, Tim Powell. Imagine, everyone, if you would. Imagine your child attends Houghton Lake Community Schools. You are at work and your phone rings. Caller ID says Houghton Lake, and you know it is the school calling. Your heart skips a beat, not knowing what they're calling about. You answer and hear, I cannot believe it. I'm calling you about this. But there was an incident in school today. Your child said he was fine, but your child had a run-in with a snowplow. What are the first questions that come to your mind? Why was there a moving vehicle where the children were? Where were the playground supervisors? This is the single most terrifying call that any parent could even imagine receiving. A million questions that I'm sure are whirling around every single one of your heads. Let me make this clear. This is not imaginary. This happened to me last week, Monday, March 7th, 2022. I received this call at 2:50 p.m. from the Collins Elementary assistant principal, and I immediately headed to pick up my children. When I got to my children, my son reassured me he was okay, and after I did a quick overview of him, he had a few marks on his neck and chin, and his wrist was a little sore. Overall, he did not seem in any distress. I proceeded to walk to the fence line by the buses and wait to talk to the transportation director. I stated to him, and I wanted to talk to him and the driver of that snowplow. We went to the bus garage office. Transportation director stated that the driver was very remorseful. However, the children should not have been running out the doors. The driver provided me with the account of the incident and stated he saw a child run out from the side of the building. He slammed on his brakes. He continued to slide. The second child ran out from the side of the building and was hit by the plow and then went under the truck. But be clear, that was my son. After further questions with my son after we got home, as well with the building principal and the superintendent, I was floored to hear that I was not made clear at the moment of being notified at 2:50 that this instance happened at 1:15 p.m. That is 1 hour and 35 minutes before I received the phone call. Why was I, as a parent, not contacted immediately? No medical attention was given, no report was filed, and no communication was received until 2:50 p.m. Then the information of the incident was reported to the building principal at 3 p.m. That's what she had told me. And then the superintendent said he found out at 3:30 p.m. Why did the adults aware of the incident not contact their supervisors immediately? Why did the assistant principal take it upon herself to not prioritize my child's incident?
I'm sorry, that's your 3 minutes.
My husband would like to
Yep.
continue.
So many unfortunate choices led to and continued after my child was hit with a snowplow. Thankful, my child has been cleared by medical professionals and he is doing well. This could have ended in death. As parents, we entrust our child's care to you very individuals who are sitting in this room today, other staff members, not in attendance. Are you so short-staffed that you cannot follow protocol, while other safety concerns are being overlooked or ignored? As board members, superintendent, and building administrators, you have expectations for the students attending your school district, which is clearly stated in each building. Collins Lower is responsible, respectful, and safe. Collins Upper, responsible, respectful, safe, and engaged. Junior, senior high, responsible, respectful, safe, and engaged. Are those also the expectations of our staff and administrators? Have you lived up to those expectations? Can you as board members, superintendent, and other administrators tell me this? Are you doing everything in your power to model those expectations for students and staff in your care during 7:45 to 2:45, being responsible? Are you addressing all concerns brought up to you by your staff, parents, and children regarding the safety while on campus, being respectful to others? Is there anything more you can do to improve the safety of all students and staff members on campus? That goes safety. Are you reviewing safety protocols and expectations while all staff members and students multiple times throughout the years being engaged? We visited this school today, March 14th, to review some new protocols for the going to and coming in from recess. I have talked with the building principal and superintendent and liaison officer, Mr. Mike, and expressed the steps that have been taken and implemented as early as Tuesday, March 8th, the day after the incident, were a good start to addressing the safety concerns in the back of the school. Why does this take a serious accident for people to wake up and pay attention? It is our goal, me and my wife's goal, to make sure that the accidents like this do not happen again, and that no parent receives a phone call that we got on Monday, or March 7th, an hour and a half late, even a call that is worse. We would like to work side by side with administrative staff and parents, students, to ensure that the school district, Holton Community Schools, is doing everything they can to live up to the expectations that they are for the students, especially in safety. Some of the questions we have. Thank you. Oh, one more thing I would like to address to the board. Maybe we can get parents and staff and on a possible safety committee where we can address some issues as parents, because sometimes we lose sight of what we see, things that sometimes people don't see. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment? Okay. Presentation, community education mid-year update.
You can stand. I don't know. You might get sick sitting. Down, how do I use it? Oh, the one that's gone. Oops, go back. Good evening. I think most of you guys know me, but if not, I'm Heidi Paleka. I'm principal of Alternative Ed. I have two students here, and I'll introduce them now and then later. This is Lucas, and this is Kaylee. I'll introduce them first and foremost when they come up here. I invited them tonight to share some information as well. So I changed the date. We were supposed to be here on the 20th, I think, of February, and that meeting was adjourned, so here we are today. So we're just gonna get some data. I know this is the fun part we have to present, but here's some enrollment data. So over the years, it's just showing the change in our enrollment. If you have questions, I'll kind of go through a little bit. In 2018-19, in the fall, we had 90 kids. Spring, so students on file are how many kids that we actually like physical children, and then as you get FTEs, you get a prorated FTE sometimes. So like there's not 69.99 kids, as you know, but it goes to like our GED kids, the number of hours instruction. We do get per pupil counting on our kids that are in the high school equivalency taking their GED, or if we have some kids that don't need all the classes through the day, we get partial rating. So students on file is actually number of kids, head count, and then the FTE is the amount of funding that we were submitting in from this to get paid from the state. So in 2018-19, like I said, we had 90 students in the fall. We got a 69.99 FTE. Spring we had 100. We had 82.05. And then 2019-20, in the fall there were 66 students with a 59.58 FTE. For spring they had 75 students with a 68.5. 2021, mind you, those are the 2 years of pandemic too, right? So 2021 has been another pandemic year. Fall there were 74 students with a 50 FTE. Spring 71, 48.50 FTE. Then here we are to present day. We had 150 kids sign up in the fall, and then you look at that 67.25. We're trying to get it to 69.25 We're working on some adjustments, hopefully at the ISD level. Thanks, Kim, for helping with that. And then the spring count, we had 105 kids, and we're still not done. I know that paperwork was started and almost done today, but I didn't want to put any of that up because it's not. So do you have any questions on the enrollment data information?
Are these bodies in classroom, or are we still doing like virtual down there?
So
Or is it a mix of both?
that's where we're going next. So the last 3 years were kids button seat, teacher-led instruction. 2021, this year is the year we've gone to Edgenuity. We don't have a certified teacher, we have mentors, so we actually we use Edgenuity to put the certified teacher. So yes, that's the difference for this year. So we do have kids that are doing fully remote where they don't come in, we have some kids that come in, and we have kids that do both. So yeah.
So those numbers, I'm sorry, so those numbers being that it's saying it's 150, but we're only getting FTEs for 67, it's still financially still being covered.
Yeah, so the tricky part about being online is because we're all considered 50D, which is a seat time waiver kind of a program, it's two-way communication for 4 weeks, and then we're working on the assignment completion. There's some disparity because it's something new that we've not done before, so we're being very proactive about it. But we're going through the nuances of being a fully online program.
Okay.
So, any other questions? Okay. So here's our Edgenuity. So we do use Edgenuity. The high school uses Edgenuity as well. So we purchased 100, I think we got 450 seats for junior, senior high school. They had about 45, 50. I'm not sure, Jeff, if you remember. And we purchased the bulk of the remaining. So currently we've got 148, well, I take that back. As of February 18th, we had 148 classes, because I had this ready to go for that end of the month presentation. But 148 classes were assigned to students. 113 of those classes were completed, and then 48 classes were incomplete due to students that they moved or they dropped. We have a 2-week grace period where we can drop students if they don't do any activity with no consequence to cost. So we try to drop them in grace period, and we monitor that, which is going to go on to the next one. 115 classes were saved. We didn't have to pay for those because we dropped them in a 2-week period. And then currently we're at this February 18th, we had a 77% completion rate. So what we're doing, instead of giving kids 6 classes, just my years of alternative ed and experience with kids, you give them 6 online classes, they start them all, they get through part of them, like, oh, this is getting tough, I don't like to do that, I don't want to do that assignment or that lab, so then they go to the next class. So then they get through all of the classes and they never complete them. So what I've been trying to do is pinholing them and forcing them to, I give them 2 classes at a time. If they complete one, we give them another one. If they complete one, I give them another one. That way they've earned their credit and you can't take that from them. And that's the hard thing, when you give them 6 online, they never, I shouldn't say never, very rarely do they go through and complete them all, and then I have, at the end of the term or semester, there's no credit to be earned. So this is just forcing them to complete that class. So yes, we're learning and growing, so it's not ideal. We've switched things up, and when the students speak, we've tried so many different things. Still working on what works best for kids, trying to get them to come in so many days a week, working at home. Right now we're on a 7% a day, which they can talk to eventually about as well. But it's an ongoing adventure to see what best works for the kids. And right now everyone's like, we're on intercession this week, so because we're on the balance calendar. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that part of it down there, but we're on balance calendar down there. So this is intercession and then spring break. So, but we're GED testing and high school equivalency testing a lot. So we're trying to get some kids through. So that's my next slide. But does anyone have any questions on Edgenuity? So high school equivalency, I just want to do a little blurb about this. The GED is the name brand we use. A lot of people think GED is what the test is. It's actually called the high school equivalency, and then there's 3 different tests. There's the GED, which we use, there's TASC, and then there's HiSET. We recently became HiSET, a HiSET testing center. It's something I worked on in November. We haven't officially tested anyone. With the GED, there's 4 tests, your core subjects, math, English, science, and social studies. HiSET, there's 5 tests. They divided up the language arts, and they've done a reading and a writing component. The nice thing about HiSET is we have some kids that might struggle in math, so you can have a little bit of a lower score in a HiSET, and the other ones will pull you up. I mean, you can't score excessively low, but you can get a little bit lower, but we haven't ran that yet. We're still trying to just feel our way through. When I started this fall back down there, there was 4 kids in the GED program, so we had a long ways of growing it. Right now, well, that was as of the end of February, we have 32 students. I just signed another kid up and 3 kids last week. So we're getting a lot of kids. Due to the pandemic, a lot of kids are behind on credits, as you can imagine, so they're still there. So we've been trying to get kids to, okay, let's look at your number of credits and how many years you're gonna be in school. Maybe we should look at doing high school equivalency. A lot of people still have resistance, and I know that many of you are aware of it, but I would like to share this. The GED before 2014 was a different test. It wasn't as rigorous in some ways. It didn't have Algebra 2, it didn't have the higher level English and the higher order of thinking that was required. So after 2014, that's when the state really pushed it for high school equivalency. So now, when you get your high school equivalency, we use the GED brand. Kids actually are ready to go to college. If you score a certain test score, which I'll talk about when I get to these young students next to me, that you can get college ready level scores, and you can also get college credit depending on how high you score on tests. So it's kind of an exciting thing. So I had to change it because when I first did the presentation, we only had 2 kids that had passed their high school equivalency, and now we're up to 5, and we currently have 13 students that have passed 1 or more of our official tests, and our next test date is March, well actually it's tomorrow. We just added it because we have so many kids going into GED. So we added a test for tomorrow before spring break to keep the momentum going for some students, and then we have another one on the 30th. So, is there any questions about that from audience or board? Okay, going right through. So some grants. We've been trying to write a lot of grants down at our building to try to find ways to motivate students. I love Roscommon Community Foundation, so I reached out to Suzanne Luck and I applied for 2 grants, and I'm very thankful I received both. So the first grant I wrote, we received $1885, and I wrote that for celebrations. What I'm doing is every 9 weeks if kids pass classes, like 2 or 3 classes, we are doing a pizza party, or we're doing gift cards or something for them, like, hey, congratulations, you passed classes. So then the next one is the Kirtland MTech. Both of Kaylee and Lucas went on that field trip, so they might be able to talk about that. I wrote a grant to take kids up to look at the trade programs up at Kirtland and Grayling and go up to Gaylord at the MTech Center. They didn't want to take a bus. Originally, it was going to be one big bus trip. Due to COVID, they did not want a whole bus, so they're limiting us to 10 people. So we're using the school vans, and we're having 2 staff go and take 8 kids, which is nice because it's much more personalized. So we're going up, touring the facility up at Kirtland and Grayling, and then we are having lunch. The culinary arts program makes pizza, and the kids sit and talk to the facilitator, Cicely. Then they hop in the school van, they go up to MTech and look at those trade programs. There's just such a need for trade programs. We aren't pushing kids into anything, we're just showing them the opportunity of what they can do, and that's one step. I did write a grant for us to go to planetarium in Delta's planetarium in Bay City. However, they're virtual, and I really want to do the experience where the kids get to sit in chairs, lean back, and the whole ceiling turns. But because they're currently shut down due to COVID and it's only virtual, I might have to postpone that grant until next year until it's open, because I want the kids to experience that. So the next grant, we are trying to motivate kids, the big trip. We are going to take kids to Mackinac Island on June 12th or 16th, can you remember? It's one of them, sorry, I get too many dates going in my head. But we're trying to get kids, if they pass classes, they have to pass a set number of classes. They have to be trustworthy so that they're good in Houghton Lake and in the building, so we take them out on an island. But we wrote that grant and we were awarded that, so we are able to take 60 people to the Mackinac Island for the day. It's paying the bus, and we're doing it after school is out, so we have school buses from Houghton Lake, which is helpful because just the balanced calendar is in session. And we go till June 22nd. But we're gonna go up to Mackinac, pays for the ferry trip, we get a carriage ride around the island, we get to go to the butterfly house, they're giving us food, we're going to the fort. So all of that's included for the kids, just as another way to try to motivate kids to pass classes. Anything we can do to get them to pass. So, then we got the MARASP, which is the retired Roscommon, I don't know the full name, sorry, I had it wrote down, and I knew it, but that was a couple weeks ago. But Dana Edwards wrote that grant. We were awarded $300, so that's Owen Vandenboss sitting there putting books away from us, or putting away on the shelf from the grant that Dana wrote and was awarded. And Dana was gonna be here tonight, but they're getting snow, she lives in Gaylord, so I told her to go home and I'll just talk about it. So, just showing the power of reading for you reading lovers. We had a young man that came to us, he was coming in at about a 2nd, 3rd grade reading level, and Miss Edwards is like, all right, I'm not literacy on science and math, so I just want you to read. This young man admitted he had never read a whole book before, so we started looking for a book, and she gave him The Call of the Wild. And he read it, sat in the back of the classroom, thought he was sleeping, but he sat there, he read it day in, day out, read the book, and he found a new passion for reading. since then, he had read 5 books, and his reading level went from end of second being a third to a 5th grade reading level, just by reading. So now he reads a lot. So that alone is just a great story, and we don't get a lot of positives sometimes, and that is a good positive thing for a kid. And he's enjoying reading, and it's just been a nice thing. And he's been sharing that love and trying to get other kids to read. So it's kind of a nice thing. You're never too old to get a new passion and pass it on. So the next grant we got was Kiss Me Coffee. Dana wrote a grant for Kiss Me Coffee. We were awarded $500. We're going to make a garden, a lettuce garden and garden using pallets outside in the spring if it ever comes, right? But we're going to build one of those, and she was awarded that grant. And then we did apply for another grant from MEMIC, but we weren't awarded. So we're down there just trying to find different ways to get kids to get engaged and learn and grow and be successful. So is there any questions, anyone, from that? If I go too fast, let me know, but I know there's a lot on the agenda, and I told the students that they only had to stay for a presentation, so here's my student chairing. So this is Lucas, with him. He is to my left. He came to us this year, and I'm gonna let him talk, and I told him they can share what they're comfortable with, why they came, what they're doing. He went on a field trip, so I will let you share whatever you are willing to share about school program and yourself.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Always from a young age, I've had to work and help with my family. We are not very wealthy at all, but due to that, around sophomore year, I had to drop out and start working full time with COVID hitting and everything like that. And I always wanted to seek a higher education, although not very many in my family have, but just to support people like my mom. And I did that by going through the GED program, and I come from Alcona, which teachers there are very dismissive of students, and I've had the most help, and sorry, I'm not sure quite how to say this, they're just very passionate there about helping students get further along and seek a higher education. They push for it. I wouldn't even quite call them counselors just because they do act as teachers there. They help with any single question you can have, and even now I'm still graduated and they're still assisting me with getting grants and how to seek out those higher educations and go to college like that. The Kirtland trip was very eye-opening. I've always been in construction, but I got to see things like the medical field, the nursing, phlebotomy, everything like that, and that was very interesting and sparked a slight interest. The MTech building also was very interesting since I'd been in construction before. I'd worked along people like HVAC, electricians, and everything, and the electric program really sparked an interest in my mind, and that's probably the field I will be going into.
So the other exciting thing with Lucas is he has passed his GED. He scored high enough on his test scores. So like I was talking to you guys about college ready and all of that. So you have to have a 145 score to pass the GED, a 145 to 164. If you score a 165 to 174, you're college ready, and Lucas scored that on 2 of his tests. So nice. We're really proud of him that he passed it and he's done such a great job. He liked to go to bowling, and we were just talking today about he might look at some other adventures, but we are working on getting him tomorrow. We have a webinar on TIP programs and students of veterans, all the other ways to try to find programs for students to go to college or to a trade program to do what Lucas is trying to do is finish and move on. So but he was our 2nd official graduate of the school year, so we're excited about that. So we're really proud of him. So. This is Kaylee, and we have a joke at our school how we pronounce her name, so.
Schwemley.
Thank you. We go Schwemley, so it's kind of our fun game down there. So I'll let Kaylee share her stuff, and then I'll talk about her next.
All right, so the year the school closed down for COVID, I enrolled in January. And so once we switched to online on COVID, I failed very bad. I wasn't doing good with my classes. I wasn't doing good mentally. Struggled with a lot. And then my mom called community education in September, and they said, you better come right in. If you got to graduate on time, you got to get your credits. So we went right in. I got enrolled. I got 7 classes done my first semester online, but me and Miss Palatka and some teachers were talking, and we realized that I would not graduate on time, which was supposed to be my year of 2022. So we talked, and we switched me over to GED, and I can't remember what the third, I don't remember when when was last test day?
We've had so many. I can look on my phone and tell.
I'm
A week ago.
A week ago, I have my GED basically. I took all my pre-tests, which are the tests you gotta take to see if you're ready to take it. I passed them all in one day and got my 2 tests done, my 4 tests done in 2 different testing blocks and graduated. I have to agree with what Lucas said about how the teachers are, like counselors. We had a receptionist named Miss Julie. She was basically the counselor, and then I don't know, every teacher's there just so loving. Honestly, if I didn't switch to community education, I know that I would probably be dropped out, because that at the time was my plan, you know. So now I'm graduated. I went on a field trip too. It was amazing. Definitely got eye-opening. I know a lot of kids there are definitely doing great, and I think, you know, it's just a great program for kids that, you know, struggled during COVID and that, you know, don't do good in regular school, I would say. Yeah.
So both of them are amazing young adults, and that's the nice thing about this smaller program down there is we get to facilitate, get to know them a little bit better. Kaylee was gonna stay hard and true to the high school diploma. Her parents are here this evening. We've had some conversations about what would be the best route for her. And she took her pre-test, because you have to take a $6 pre-test to see how you score. And once those are passed, then we sign you up for the official GED test, and you can take 2 tests per test session. And very high scores, like Lucas and I are both great. They did great scores. Kaylee passed her pre-test. Now the kids are like, well, I don't want to do that. I want to, some of them. She has the skills, so she put the time in when she was, you know, younger and worked, and so she did get through those tests, and so she has been our most recent graduate. And the last test last week we tested, so.
And Michigan Works, they are helping us a lot. They are talking to me about college programs, helping me get free college for at least a couple years of scholarships, free driver's training, just everything you really need out there.
Congrats to you both.
So they're great kids. They've done a great job. So we really appreciate everything that they've, you know, they're great leaders, which is a wonderful thing to have. Positive role models and leaders. So you guys can stand here because you're going to get some pictures if you want eventually. So, but we're proud. Our goal is just to try to get kids to move on. So Dana Edwards does GED. We run GED classes on Tuesday out in Grayling. So Jessie, I don't know what her title is because they have such long names, but she's coming to our building. She was here last Wednesday. That's when they had the last test. She's coming this Wednesday, and she's trying to get kids signed up. We're trying to find services for them to get driver's license, go to college. So it's, we're keeping them busy out there with lots of people coming in and out. So this is the easy downhill slide. So we're just gonna go through pictures. If you guys want to say anything about any of them, you can. So in August, the kids organized a barbecue. They organized it, brought the food in. So Mr. Ryan, one of our mentors, we have Jeremy Ryan, Sarah Patty, Connie Klein, they're our mentors. We all pitched in and had a barbecue, and then we had crock pot soup back in our adult GED program with one of our students. So kind of like eating a lot, right? Here's another slide. So Miss Klein does monthly birthday celebrations every month. We find out who has birthdays, and Miss Klein brings in cake, and we have a little gathering. She'll ask them what they want. She makes it. Sometimes she buys it, but she does kind of.
I decorated that happy birthday board.
See, yeah, she did. She blew the balloons up and did the decorations. So, first student celebration, we did that for the kids that passed 2 classes by the end of the first 9 weeks. Roscommon Community Foundation, this was one of the things that they paid for. It's kids eating pizza. I got Carrie in here. She was delivering our pizzas from Hungry Howie's. So, just some pictures of kids. Count day, we got donuts. Mr. Hisson was teaching students on how to take effective notes. So we had all the kids, after they got them all sugared up, we sent them down to Mr. Hisson, who's doing a special ed in our building, and said, hey, try to teach kids how to take notes. So it was a good time. Kids learned. Did you guys sit in that one?
Yeah, I'm actually on the floor in the first picture.
Oh, yeah, there she is. So. Then Mr. Ryan was trying to motivate kids to come in. So he put a candy jar out, trying to get kids to guess how many candy corn were in the jar. Funny story, we're standing there talking to one of the students one day, and he walked over and opened it up and started eating, and Mr. Ryan's like, what are you doing? You just threw my numbers off. So that was kind of fun. But he ate candy and cheated. But Miss Klein has a Spanish heritage, so she was talking now, she likes to cook, she makes food, she makes desserts. That's why we're all gaining weight down there, but she made homemade tamales for all of us and the students, and we were doing Spanish Heritage Day. This one I had to throw up here, sorry, go green. Michigan State, Mr. Ryan is a diehard Michigan, a lot of us down there Michigan State. He bet anyone that wanted to go against his team, he'd buy a candy bar if we won, and we won, so some staff and I decided to go out and decorate his room and put up Michigan State won and decorated it. He took down the win sign of Michigan State, we left the green and white and said, well, it is Bobcat color, so I'm comfortable leaving that part up. So it is slightly decorated, but deep down we know it's because Michigan State beat Michigan that day, so. Here's something I just want to reflect, I think many of you know, but if not, it's just a voice. We lost a family school member, Teresa McMonigal, worked at Hope Lake Community for 10 years. I worked with her, I hired her. She was a great person. She was a huge advocate for students with mental health and support. Unfortunately, she lost her own personal battle with that, so that was a big hit for students, but always being an advocate for what's best for kids, and she was pretty strong at that, so, but kids have, reached out to us, and she was a great girl and did a lot of good for our program, so. Christmas celebration, we had a staff gathering. Wish I could say that was at our school, but it's not. We don't have a beautiful fireplace like that, but we did do an annual Christmas dinner for our students again. Students were getting in the holiday spirit, so that was a great time again. Mr. Ryan went out and did a fabulous job hitting up every business down in M55. Our kids had a heck of a Christmas with gifts this year. Just some of the things, here's some of the pictures from the dinner. Santa came. We have some cute pictures of Santa. I've listed all of the vendors that Mr. Ryan got. It was just huge. So I would thank all those businesses. We put it on the paper, thanking them as well. But it's funny, if you notice, it's all boys sitting on Santa's lap. The girls were a little shy, but the guys were all ready to go out there and be jovial with Santa, so we appreciated it. So it was a great time. We look forward to doing it again next year. So Kisby Coffee also came. They gave us a huge donation as well for kids and gifts and food, and then they also had Crystal and her helper come down, and they did bubble tea for our kids in the morning, so that was a great opportunity for our students. And then Julie Bell is, Kaylee was saying, Miss Bell left us. Julie was with us and went to the Core ISD. She's doing great out there, but she is very missed in our building by staff and students. Arnie came. I don't know if I should say he bought us pizza, so I didn't put it out there, but he did buy pizza for the kids, trying to talk to them about services, so I'm trying to get the military to talk to kids about that as an opportunity if they want to do military, trade school, college, whatever they want. We're trying to help them get them in that right direction. Then here's the first trip to, this was February 24th, our trip to MTech, and then the second trip, those are the trip dates, January 20th, February 24th. The one we have coming up next Thursday, or at the end of the month on Thursday, and then 4/25. So we really appreciate Ross County Community Health Foundation for making this opportunity for the kids to go. So save the date. There you go. You want to go hand it out to the board first? Just go put one up for all of them. So our graduation is Saturday, June 18th. It was the 18th, and I moved it up. So I did it a while ago, but just in case, I made little flyers for you to save your date. Love to have you join us. It's June 11th at 11 at the Junior Senior High School Auditorium. Hope you can join us. We currently have 19 potential high school seniors slated to graduate and 20 hopeful high school equivalency or GED students. So I'm looking forward to a full stage with kids. So last thing I have is thank you. We appreciate your support for our kids in our program. So I don't know if you have any questions I can answer, or these fine young individuals can answer any questions for you. Oh, that was it. Thank you.
All right, the presentation of the Career Expo.
I'm gonna ask Jeff to help me with this one a little bit. We're gonna talk about our Career Expo, because I saw your eyes get big.
He looks surprised.
Yeah, he was
that you
surprised.
called his name.
I'm about to call Chauncey's name, because I noticed Trish is not there, so we're gonna do an abbreviated one until she can get back. But I bragged on Trish earlier under the superintendent update for student and staff recognition. But from a principal standpoint, Jeff, why don't you share a little bit about what our 7th and 8th graders did that morning, while our 9th through 12th graders were doing their experience. And then I'll call on one of our presenters.
While the Career Expo was going, we had our 7th and 8th graders in the auditorium. So we had Scott Martin from Hacking School Discipline in there doing a presentation with him, talking about sense of belonging, sense of self, some relational aggression, and starting to recognize like healthy relationships with students. So we had kind of targeted what some main needs at the high school level were behaviorally, and Mr. Martin put on, I don't know if you've ever had seventh and eighth grade students in the auditorium for 2 hours, but he did an amazing job keeping them engaged and focused and entertained while the Career Expo was going. The feedback from the Career Expo has been just kind of overwhelming in the positivity. Some of our students getting to see a lot of businesses, but also a lot of local people that they know, and kind of forging that relationship. We had one student say, he said I can do it. Like, he said I can do that job. And so now that I know him, I feel like I can go interview with him, and having that connection, having that tangible plausibility of being able to go pursue those things. It's just really cool. It was a great day in the school. There's so many logistics that go into putting that on, but it's kind of helped rejuvenate everybody a little bit, seeing what that light at the end of the tunnel is. So we're just really appreciative of everybody.
Thank you. Chauncey, do you want to add anything from a presenter perspective, as one of the 24 who was there?
I just think, I don't know why Trish is leaving me hanging here, but it was a great experience. I mean, the kids were so engaged. It was everything you ask for as a business owner. I can't, like Joe said, I've seen 3 kids so far that took my class come down and grab applications. So I'm like,
Nice.
For me, I'm like, it's well worth it. You know what I mean? I've already heard stuff from other businesses. Why wasn't I included? So I'm sure next year we're gonna be, 30 or 40. I would hope. I think it was great for the kids. I mean, there was a lot of kids just picking classes just because. I mean, whether it was their friends doing it or whatever, but there was so many of them that were engaged, and the questions that you were getting is phenomenal. And I think the sky's the limit. If Jeff would agree.
So Ben, to build on some of the things Chauncey touched on, we've been doing a lot with Wexford Misaki and core CTC programs and some of the programs at Kirtland. And I think in centering our focus on some of those things, the kids see those programs and they're fun, but I don't know that they always relate it to it turning into a career. And so it's been really cool as we're getting ready to do scheduling for next year. Some of the kids will be saying, well, what program do I sign up for to let me work for that person or to go into that career field? And seeing that, we're kind of having some really quiet, cautious optimism about what those CTC enrollments are going to look like as a result of that. So.
And it really changes the conversations that counselors are having with kids and parents around electives and the importance of passing the 4 classes to make sure you can take those electives to open those doors. So it's the intentionality about how will this opportunity potentially lead me down the road to that career opportunity or the college-ready opportunity for the certificate that they might be pursuing. So I talked to a lot of the business owners there and just kind of made my way around. And everyone I spoke with said they were very impressed at the level of questioning and the intention that the kids were giving the presentations. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see it grow, and looking forward to it next year. So, Chauncey, thank you, because I know you were in on it from the front end with that first presentation in just that one classroom, and then gave Trish that idea, wow, this could go building wide. So thank you, really.
The one presentation in her classroom, every one of her students come to see me again. So I'm like, I must have actually hit a nerve. I'm like, they're like, I didn't know if they just wanted to high-five me or actually come and listen, I mean, a lot of us presenters presented, wages and, other things that these kids can really look at and go, hey, I can really look at this. A lot of them, I know Roscommon County Road Commission was here, Brian, send you guys down. So I think it can go, you know, like I said, the sky's the limit on this thing. And I think, you know, if we can enroll them 7th and 8th graders and kind of really get the wheels turning there, and, you know,
I agree, 100%. Thank you, and Jeff, thank you for your synopsis, I appreciate it.
thanks for trusting me on this.
Nobody said that.
There you go.
I don't think that was what was said. Hold on. All right, report, superintendent report?
All right. Quick COVID update. Recent positive case trends demonstrate that our COVID numbers and the relative impact of COVID are continuing to diminish. We remain steady at 0, maybe every now and then 1 case per day, and really holding our own, which is really nice to see. On Friday, February 25th, the CDC issued a updated masking mandate for buses. What they did is they said effective that date, you're no longer required to wear them on a school bus. It's recommended no longer required. So as of that date, we changed our policy as well. I sent this communication out to all of our staff and students via robocall. And then this past week, MDHHS rescinded the requirement that school districts post COVID positive information on websites. We must still share COVID positive cases with the health department, but that's really no different than we must do with other infectious diseases like a case of measles or a case of mumps. So we're seeing it continue to trend back down to hopefully, knock on, that's hopefully what, more normal. Michigan School Police Safety Grant has been finalized. I want to thank Officer Zarevsky for his part in that. I have submitted the grant for $85,000 for the improvement of our exterior and interior door security with upgraded door boot blockage systems, as well as the purchase of 5-walk walkie-talkies for all the administrators, the offices, and support personnel, so we can communicate with one another on a daily basis, especially in the event of a power outage or a crisis situation. We tested these walkie-talkies, and they will allow clear communication from the lower elementary wing at Collins all the way to the boiler room in the high school, out to the stadium complex, really the whole ground. So we were quite pleased that talking through multiple walls of cinder block did not seem to be an impediment. The supply chain assistance fund was offered to us through the Michigan Department of Ed for Houghton Lake Community Schools food service program. What this is the USDA offers supply chain assistance funds, in our case $25,605, to purchase domestic, unprocessed, or minimally processed foods. So really the emphasis is on fresh and local as much as you can possibly do. So examples of things that Chartwells and Lacey can purchase with these additional dollars are fluid milk, cheese, yogurt, fruits, vegetables, pasta, rice, and meat. Foods may be whole, cut, pureed, fresh, frozen, canned, and or dried, but not processed. Foods that are not permitted would be things like pre-made pizza, bread, muffins, crackers, prepackaged sandwiches, and chicken nuggets. It's interesting they actually put chicken nuggets on there. Those are not my words. So, anyway, moving on. I just found that funny. Purchasing locally grown foods is really strongly encouraged with these funds, and I definitely appreciate that emphasis. And so excited to see how Lacey is able to work those in this spring, and again next fall. A big shout out, and some of this will seem a little bit dated, to our bowling and our cheer teams. Our bowling team traveled to Traverse City a couple weeks back to compete in regionals, and then Saturday, after the Friday competition, individual regionals. Also that same Saturday, cheerleaders went to Jenison for MHSA regionals. Our boys team placed second at the regional competition, went on to states on Friday, March 4th, which started at 7 a.m. in Battle Creek. Our team placed 12th at states and capped off a truly amazing season. Houghton Lake High School also had 2 bowlers qualify for individual states. Brody Hose placed 3rd and Hunter Bailey 10th at regionals. And congratulations to our bowling team, head coach Bob Roberts, and assistant coaches Blaine Hose and George Rieger for a truly amazing season. Also at the end of February, cheerleaders went to regionals and they placed 5th out of 12 teams who were there. They performed extremely well, and it's pretty impressive when you watch their performance to look at a team of 5 cheerleaders on the floor placing ahead of teams that had a full contingent of 12 girls on the team. So they have a great deal to be proud of. Congrats to Coach Lauren Hooper and our cheerleaders on placing 5th in a great season. Professional Development Day, the 5th and final one of the school year, was February 18th. Our district teachers and support staff finished that day with a lot of positive energy. There was a lot of focus on mid-year student growth data and reviewing what's worked and some adjustments we can make moving on. It was a very productive day for all. I want to thank Alicia for going the extra mile, especially at college. You had a kind of a wellness room. I went over there and nearly didn't leave because in there was a lady giving out massages. They had hot chocolate. They had like this whole cheese bar. It was like a spa day in there. And interestingly, not that many teachers were in there. I was shocked. They were actually out there rotating around through true professional development sessions rather than all just rushing the library. So you had it well organized. That was nice to see. So good stuff going on there. Roof leak at Collins Elementary School. This was a couple weeks ago. Due to that quick warming spell we had, it really started some aggressive melting. And George Rieger was up on the roof with a roofing tech. And really, the issue that day appeared to be this large layer of ice that was covering roof at Collins as well as here. And that ice was affecting how the roof drains were working, so the water started to build up the sides of the parapet there a little bit, which isn't really supposed to hold water like a pool. And so it started running in and dripping down on some lockers in a hallway there at Collins. And ultimately that can't be fixed until all the ice melts off. So this week's temperatures should take care of that. And as we'll see later in a presentation, roofs are part of our ESSER plan. Middle school activity night. I had a real blast chaperoning the middle school activity night last Friday with over 24 staff from Collins and the junior senior high. Students played Nerf War in the gym in teams of 7. Thank you, by the way, for chaperoning that. It ran very smoothly. They danced in the cafeteria. We had access to movies and board games in the Kirtland room. And we had almost 200 students in attendance, and everyone had a great time. And I was shocked every time I went down the hall by the locker rooms toward the gym, by the concession stand to see how much food middle schoolers can put away. It was shocking. The concession stand was packed, and Jeff, 3 hours later, they may have had a couple cans of pop. I mean, literally gone. It was good stuff. So thanks to Jeff and all of the staff who helped out, Alicia, thanks to you and all your staff who came over. It was a really great event and a lot of fun. And I think that takes care of it. Thank you.
All right, moving on to the finance report.
All right, I'm gonna ask Dana to help kick this off.
For those that don't know, Dana Riley, Finance Director. I'd like to say I've been here 5 years and I'm sad to be leaving at the end of June. It's been a good ride here, and it was a very tough decision for me to jump ship, but I just want to say thank you for that. So budget amendment, I didn't give you the original or the initial report because we don't want to, I didn't want to put the cart before the horse. This is a budget amendment that we're going to ask you to approve tonight, and then next month you'll see the regular report again. Oh, my eyes are getting really bad. Hopefully we can. No, is that the biggest you can get it? Oh no. That's not good. Huh. All right, I'll just talk about it. It is posted online if anybody wants to see it. I believe it is, right, Ben?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, in short, our revenue is up from the original budget that was approved in June, and that's due to increased taxes. There's some fees that are less. Decrease in tax penalties, interest, transportation fees, miscellaneous revenue, that's down a little bit. Our state sources, our per pupil funding, that has obviously increased, so you'll see that that number is higher. And then our federal sources has increased as well, due to all of the grants, title grants, ESSER grants, things like that. On the expenditure side, our expenses are up compared to the June budget. Each line item, there's an explanation there, but some things are, increase in added needs, at-risk funds, increase in section 107 grant, due to a grant adjustment, increase in mental health support, and we added the school nurse. Let's see, the pupil support services, there's an increase there, due to increased professional development, that's predominantly under the Title II grant. We had an increase in administrative costs for staff transition, executive assistant split between different function codes, so that just changes things a little bit. We did have a decrease, let's see, where the operations and maintenance. There was quite a decrease there. We just reduced the ESSER 2 budgeted expenses there. We had increased transportation costs, professional development, and increased community activities due to federal grants. So it's all explained there, but in short, we're seeing a gradual improvement, which is good. Our ending fund balance that we're expecting is 2.1 million. We're hoping that it will be better than that. This budget is kind of conservative. But we will do another amendment in June to tie it up even tighter. So you'll see that, and then we'll have the 22-23 in June as well. Any questions?
From a percentage standpoint, what's that put our fund balance at?
So I calculate that I'm looking at 14%. So, and just know too that it's not because of the ESSER grants. So when we do the budget, the expenses total the revenue. So it's kind of a wash on those. So we endure the expenses, and then we request reimbursement for those.
Say a couple real, first of all, you're not off the hook yet, because you still have a few more board meetings to go, but I do want to take a moment just to say thank you for all your work. You were here and really put in the long hours when times were lean, and really helped put us on a solid foundation and build for an opportunity like we're seeing tonight. We're talking now about moving from what was a 6.9 or 7% fund balance into a double-digit fund balance less than a year and a half out of a deficit situation, and that doesn't happen by accident. So thank you for dotting I's, crossing T's, sending the follow-up emails, making sure folks triple check budgets before they issued a PO, and you've just done a really nice job, and I appreciate it. And certainly as someone new coming in, it was nice to have somebody that I could just walk next door and ask a question, and you had it figured out. So you're definitely going to be missed. But thank you again for also always budgeting conservative, because it's nice as we come down the home stretch that if that figure changes, it might creep up just a little bit. So that's a real positive attribute as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Presentation of the budget amendment.
That was that.
Oh,
When we have the ESSER 3.
yeah, we're into the ESSER funds.
Yep. Right.
My bad.
Doug, if you'll cue that up, Dana and I can talk about this. And I'll let you kick this off and talk about how we moved a few things from 2 to 3, and then I'll jump in here and there.
Yeah, it's kind of a moving target. This isn't working. Okay. So it's kind of a moving target, trying to juggle between different grants and the timing of when MD approves it and kicks it back for modifications, things like that. So this is specifically just the ESSER 3 grant, and the allocation is 5.9 million. The plan has been submitted to MDE. It's been partially approved. So I think they approved 2.2 or something like that to date. Funds will directly benefit Bobcat students, staff, and community. How do you do it? Okay, plan highlights. So, wow, that's hard to see.
Maybe turn that light off by it. The one. that-
There we go. Yeah, so 70-some percentage is building and grounds improvements. Good Lord, I should have brought a printout of that.
Just move closer.
Yeah, you
There we
can
go. There we go, 8.6%, mental health and behavior support. 4.6 something is, summer school. 8.12 instructional technology. We have a little bit in there for custodial costs and 1% of indirect costs. Can you take that? So this is the initial plan here. Improved parking and drives at the elementary school. Renovation of gang restrooms at the high school. Carpet and or tile in all 3 schools. Ceiling tiles at the elementary and high school. Roof replacement at the elementary school. New phone internet system. 50% of custodial costs for 22-23 school year has been written in there. Instructional technology, NWEA software for student assessments for 3 years, the STEM annual site renewal for 3 years, and then Edgenuity online education software. Summer school programs for elementary and high schools to include salaries, benefits, and supplies. Mental health and behavior support, so we're currently funding 1 social worker, and we recently hired a behavior support coach. Let's see, future projects. So we're looking at elementary playground equipment, remove and replace asphalt surfacing at the playground, install fence around playground, add sidewalk to connect the playgrounds to hard surfacing, high school weight room, floor, walking track, floor replacement, and then alternative education carpet and tile. And those are on the pending list. We're waiting for MD approval on that.
All of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, and actually I just submitted that today. But looking ahead, so just know that this plan could change based on supply and demand. There's a timeline on these ESSER funds. ESSER 2 has to be spent by September 30th of 23, I believe, and then ESSER 3 is 24. So we're hearing that there's a lot of delays in getting equipment, things like that. So we're gonna move on it, and we might have to shift gears as we go.
So one of the things that has been interesting to watch as this process unfolds, in addition to the supply challenges, is the level of scrutiny that we're getting on each one of these applications that we submit to MDE. The ESSER 2 originally had the 15 qualifiers, and some of those were as broad as anything a principal needs to run the school, which is pretty broad. I mean, you could say picnic tables, you could say curriculum, you could say a swimming pool. I mean, you could come up with pretty much anything. ESSER 3 requires that 20% of the total be spent on learning loss, things like summer school, extended day, academic enrichment, things to target learning loss due to the impact of COVID. But some of these that we've submitted, some of these requests for approval were things like the elementary extended driving loop and expanded parking in front. And that was submitted originally under ESSER 2, which was the less restricted of the two. And MD actually emailed back and said, how does this connect to COVID? How does a parking lot connect to COVID? It's a fair question. We didn't expect the question, again, because it's pretty unrestricted. The answer was our bus ridership had gone down by 20% because not many parents during that initial year and a half wanted their kids on crowded buses. So we really saw a real increase in students being driven to school by mom and dad, which if you were a driver coming in certainly from that side on 55 at 7:40 in the morning or 7:50, it might be backed up almost to the movie theater and not safe actually. So, we were able to justify that quite well. And then in the follow-up email, the gentleman emailed back and said, oh, okay, but why then are you buying 2 buses if your ridership's down? Well, we'd also asked, not to buy 2 buses, but to pay off the 2 that we had on lease. So it's questions like that that we're going back and forth on, which we have answers for, but I'm impressed actually at the level of scrutiny, because when you think about 565 districts in Michigan all submitting this to the state for that level of scrutiny on each line item, I don't know how they're sleeping down there, or if, you know, who knows, just reading this 24 hours a day, but it's nice that what we're putting in there, we can directly connect to, you know, what's going on in our community. So it's been really, you know, gratifying to watch that process. It has slowed it down a little bit, but you know, I'm excited because we're going to be able to do some things here with these funds that have been a long time coming, as in maybe even going back to the origin of the building, things like the sagging ceiling tiles in this building, for example. Not here. This has been redone. But you know, if you go into the restrooms, the gang sinks that put more water sometimes on your feet than on your hands. You know, so excited. I'm looking forward to these improvements. It's really going to help a nice face on all of our buildings. So good stuff. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. All right. Moving into action items. Looking for a motion to approve the budget amendment as presented.
I'll make the motion to approve the budget amendment as presented.
I'll support.
Motion by Nichols, supported by Souter. Roll call.
Whittington, Halliday,
Yes.
Brown, Christian,
Yes.
Souter,
Yes.
Jeske,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
All right. Motion passes. Looking for a motion to approve Motorola communication equipment purchase from Telerad for $14,085 out of the ESSERS grant, or MSP grant, or the ESSERS grant.
I can make that motion. I didn't know if you wanted to discuss it.
I was gonna discuss it after we do names, just like we.
Okay, gotcha. Yep, I'll make it.
Well, then I'll support it with her.
Okay, discussion?
Do these radios work with our law enforcement, like Mr. Zarevsky or the state police?
So they are capable. When you buy them, the first priority was to buy. They have a VHF and a UHF kind, 5 watt and 4 watt. We wanted first to make sure we had a product that would work everywhere, which this product does. Secondly, we wanted to make sure it tied in with our existing FCC license for our bus repeater, which this product does. Most of the time, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong here, most of the time you can't buy a product that automatically will tie into a police radio to go two-way, because they have private communications.
Right.
However, if we wanted programming to happen to where he could hear us, that is possible. It would take some additional work. I've done that in another district, but for us to communicate directly with him from our radios to his, it isn't going to happen. We could issue him one, and then, you know, we've got it covered while he's here on campus.
Which I
Yep.
assume he would have
Yep.
one. So the
Correct.
flip side of that is, our law enforcement radios working well in our buildings.
Do they?
No, they do not.
So that's one, that was,
My radio does not work in this building.
so we need to look deeper into that one. I think that's a conversation that, you know,
Is that a?
And I don't know,
Sheriff's
are they 800
conversation?
are they 800 megahertz radios?
These are 5 watt VHF. I'm not sure the megahertz.
So the county, all of the county police, fire, and EMS run off of 800 megahertz.
Okay.
So in order to have a template that we could have, access to, it would have to go through that type of radio. I will put you in touch with Van Stringman, who is the 911 director, who could probably answer that
we
question.
need to look
for you.
further into that, because that has been a topic that goes back many years.
Well, it's two different topics. For the law enforcement radios to work or not work in the building is separate from this communication.
Absolutely, but your radio
Yes.
needs to work.
So, my understanding was before I took this position, they were talking about putting some type of repeater inside of the building so our radios work. For me personally, throughout the day, it's not an issue. They all know to use my cell phone. The concern would be, unfortunately, if we had an active violence incident, we couldn't communicate with each other from inside or outside of the building unless we had our cell phones activated. That would be the issue for us. But as far as the radios you're talking about, like I said, Ben, I can put you in touch with Vance so we can work on, whether they're compatible with our radio, so I can add that channel to my personal radio at some point.
Good.
So I guess that was my biggest question, you know, have either a radio to our school liaison officer and or making sure that our law enforcement has the ability to communicate.
And we will definitely have one that he's tied into our group, and then.
But then we gotta look at the broader picture.
And then however, you know, again, if CERT or SWAT, you know, if we issued one to a group that might be responding, the question would be who would that be? And probably this is more of a technician conversation and a Sheriff Stern conversation, because it's probably not just us, it's probably also Roscommon schools.
That radio would go to whoever was in charge of the scene, and that wouldn't be on site here
Right,
anyways,
right.
so.
All right, roll call?
Souter,
Yes.
Jeske,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Whittington, Halliday,
Yes.
Brown, Christian,
Yes. Okay, motion approved. Discussion, the MASB self-evaluation results were emailed to each board member individually.
The results are?
Well, yeah, they were sent to us in a email.
I didn't get it.
Okay, I'll make sure you get it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So the discussion now is, do we want to have a facilitated session, or do we want to review independently?
I think the last time we did it independently, and I think we did a fine job.
Okay,
I can't see spending money for that.
I agree. Independently as my vote.
okay.
It was a pretty big range, so
But I also didn't see the results. I was just gonna say that, I'm sorry.
Any input, Chauncey?
You know, sometimes if you have facilitated, we're a little more open and honest with each other. So that's my point of view. If they need to take it out of my fund, I'll take it out of my money, I don't care.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know what the cost is on it, but,
I don't think
Number off the top of
Chauncey
my head.
or Brian have been through one either.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
and, right, yeah,
And so.
8:25.
8:25. So one of the things that Ben and I had discussed was, instead of trying to pry open a Saturday, cause that is difficult for all of us, throwing it on a Monday for a work session meeting and having it done earlier in the day, like 5 o'clock,
Sounds good.
5:30, something like that, if we can get somebody from MASB here. And then we'll just use that as a work session night, and then it's a night that everybody was already essentially planning
Yep.
to be here, and we're not trying to really
It's a good idea.
get into spring Saturdays, which are little league games and softball games and baseball games and
some
yard
people are
cleanup
working
and,
later now, too.
yeah.
Yep.
so, if we wanna move forward with having it facilitated, we can do that, and I can have Ben reach out to MASB to have something like that put together for us, and we can see what Monday we can make work.
Yep.
Alright,
Sounds good.
Great.
alright, board member comments? I'll go on the Trish Winkler's Career Day Expo. My Mason was forever just gonna be a professional NBA player.
Love it.
Things have changed a little bit with a leg injury. So he went, and he is now like, I think I wanna take welding, I wanna go to welding, I wanna do the welding classes. So I appreciate everybody who is in charge of Career Day, because now we have maybe a little bit more of a realistic goal for my only 6-foot-tall son than an NBA player. Thank you to everybody who was involved in that. All right, anyone else?
I'll go with Dana. I can't believe you're leaving. But thank you for everything you have done, because you've seen some good times and some questionable times and back to some good times, so
Right.
thank you for all of that.
You even got to be superintendent for a minute.
That was a hot minute.
It was a hot seat too, wasn't it?
It was.
All right.
Yeah, we gave her some scrutiny.
Yeah.
Just a little.
All right.
Yeah.
Moving.
I
Yes.
would just echo Mark's recognition of Dana. Thank you for your
Yes.
5 years.
Mhm.
Great
Thank
job. As Ben pointed out, I was one of the chaperones of the middle school activity night. It was a lot of fun. I was in charge of booking the Nerf 4 teams, and I even got to play the last game, and was immediately out of breath. And it's nights like that that remind me how bad I am at basketball too. So it was a great time. Good to see kids lined up to the corner of the building out there waiting to get in.
I give kudos to all of our administrators. We've had a lot of great, in general, activity nights. We had the glow dance, the other middle school activity night. The student section has killed it in football season and basketball season, so let's take that into some spring sports. So yeah, I think we're rebounding. It's feeling a little bit more.
Yeah, we are rebounding, and I think everyone is just so happy to have that, hey, we can do a dance, hey, we can do, it's infectious, it really is,
Yeah.
no pun intended.
I have a couple. I would like to thank Heidi. It was nice seeing you again. Come around more often.
I'm watching at home. I told Doug I'm one of the few that's online, so.
And I'd just like to say I'm also interested in seeing a safety committee. Definitely.
Alright. Moving on to the board calendar. Does anyone see anything that needs to be added or addressed? No?
I'll
Alright.
just point out real quick, the April 13th, that's a Wednesday, it's a couple days after your regular April meeting on the Monday. So they do the meetings midweek, so just, because that's an alternate night. I'm planning on being here, you don't have to be here, but just wanted to point out that that's a Wednesday.
Alright, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.